favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's approved. Public comment limited to 3 minutes per person with a maximum public comment of 30 minutes on agenda items only. Public comment? Public comment? Public comment? No public comment? Public comment is closed. Discussion possible motion, approved funding for additional air conditioning unit at library, total cost of $36,000.
Do you wanna kinda like tag team this?
Sure,
Okay.
that's in conjunction with the heating unit though, isn't it?
I think it was for HVAC,
Was it it was HVAC,
yeah.
and that's our portion, cause the estimate was right around 60,000. And what's there is shot, there's how many, this is one of, is it 2 units or 3 units that are that?
It's 3.
Yeah.
What do you mean by reproduction? What is heating?
Well, it's a heating and air conditioning.
And air conditioning? So is it like a mini split or something? Something to that nature?
Actually, I think that is what Marty called it.
Mini split?
But what's working there is not working, and it needs to be done. And I thought that this had been approved a while back, actually, wasn't it?
Right, so that was the impression I was getting from Al Senior when he presented on this, that there should be some money sitting somewhere.
I don't know what the status of all those projects is, because
I
there's
don't
been,
either. It's been kind of a mess out there, so it's hard for Jamie and I to know exactly how much is left in what pot of money.
because, yeah, like you asked Christina, and she doesn't seem to know what the status of any of those projects is, and, like, there was some money yet for light, I think, but then some are saying that, well, that's done, but I don't know if we've received the last invoice,
Are we going back from like 3-4 years ago when this whole thing started? And then we took down the church, and then they were gonna pay for that out of TIF? Or was it TID? Same thing, and you know, they were gonna take it down and then take that off of their half of the library. But the whole thing is drug out so long now, and sometimes I wonder if that wasn't the whole purpose. I mean, we tore down the building right away because they wanted it done. But then it's like, it took forever to get anything started in the library. And then once it did get started, nothing was getting done, it just sat there. And then when this was found, and that was found, so there was a whole new unit talked about going in there for heating and AC that was supposed to take care of the whole building, that was supposed to be part of the original bid. That's what I remember being here when Andy Alvarado was still the AC head.
I thought at the end of 2023, there was something that was approved, but that was a boiler, I thought, but.
Yeah, cause we put a new boiler in there. Which is still short, like one boiler. There's supposed to be 2 in there or something.
I don't know for sure.
I mean, I think this was, I think Aaron was chair, I think this, we're talking 20 or 21, this came from the board for this whole start.
Cause at the end of 2023, there was still, of that, so we borrowed $250,000 for the library, but the agreement was that, with the city, was that we'd spend up to $300,000, split 50-50.
Right.
So of that $250,000, at the end of 23, $27,007.78 was left. And I don't know if I've seen any invoices come in library, there's been one for $13,799.70.
And when you say it's supposed to be split, did we get any money from the city for that?
Not yet, because what they had paid for the demolition and asbestos abatement of that church was still, at that time, more than their 50%. When we did our 2023 reconciliation, if that makes sense. But,
So has that amount been spent now?
well, I don't, so the only actual expenses that I'm seeing that have come through you so far for 2024 is $13,799.70. But I don't know if there's anything hanging out there for invoices. It's possible that the city paid for it and then they're gonna bill us for that.
We made a huge mistake when we
Paid for
passed that
this.
by not putting an end date on it.
I don't, or some of the
This-
other expenses that were approved for the
This
library
HVAC work
projects.
hasn't been done yet though.
To my knowledge, it hasn't, but I mean, if you look back in minutes over the last several months, it looks like Gary had been in contact with a Doug Verbigan, who was supposed to be working on HVAC work through the winter.
So we paid Doug's Plumbing and Heating in, well, it was a February invoice for replacement of boiler. And so that's what that $13,799.70
This is for the basement unit.
Yeah.
and I thought that's what this one was for too.
That's what I remember, a whole bunch of work was going into the basement in that 300,000 in the exterior. Cause they were having problems in the basement.
This was done before I was on, but since the day I've been on, I've been hearing about the library and where are we at, and nobody seems to have known since I've gotten on, so.
Yeah, it just keeps dragging out, and sometimes I wonder why that is.
Good question.
Sometimes I have to think maybe it's so that we lose track of where we're at.
A big part of the problem, personally, is that you've got an oversight committee and then it comes to the joint management committee. And it's garbage. It should be in the oversight committee and right there. Library, the tourist center, and the animal shelter all should be that their own oversight committee and stay right there. It's redundant, it's
Stream on.
inefficient,
Yeah, this was for that was for the lower level.
stupid. I don't know why it was set up that way.
For the boiler though.
Yes.
Well, if we spent our 300,000, that was originally the deal on this, I
But
guess you're gonna have to
we
leave it.
haven't, because it's hard to,
But on this, that 36, they're paying 40% of that. They're paying 24 of 60. That 36 is 60% of the 60 for the AC unit. I think my understanding is they were looking for approval before the work could be done.
Where are the funds gonna come out of?
well,
when
okay,
The check's written.
so if there's nothing else hanging out there, then of that 300,000, there would still be $63,208 remaining. But again, I don't know if there's invoices that we haven't received yet or work that's been done, cause there's something going on with that window.
That supposedly, Al Senior said that there was nothing left on, Leitner's, because they were gonna try and hold and not pay, so that that window could be taken care of. But they had paid all the invoices that had been submitted on that.
Who's they?
What has he
City?
The
submitted?
city had,
Well, we had paid it based on what the
Or-
city told us to pay.
okay,
Cause then we actually, we had to get a refund from Black Lightner because.
we had overpaid. Nice.
We should be getting invoices from them and less 40% to the city and our thing, not.
But the
Paid from
agreement
the
was
city.
written that the county would fund all of it and,
And then we bill them, right? Is that how it goes?
or provide a loan to them for their part of it,
Or up to like, what was it, 10 years or something?
something like that.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of things in that contract. There's a little bit of a heated meeting, or should I say, like someone says, spirited meeting.
So, bottom line is, yes, there is money left for those projects, but if they want that boiler system for, you know, $90,000 next year, then there's not.
I understood the heating and cooling was supposed to be redone in that 300.
Okay, well, it's not, if we do that, I mean, even if we just do that, you know, say no to the AC, that boiler, what they put in is still going to put us over that, cause there's 63,000.
The bad thing about this whole thing is you get somebody over here doing this, and then they're just sending everything back over here and saying, write a check. That's just a bad. Person driving the bus knows exactly what's going on, but the person in the back doesn't know if they should open the door and bail out yet or not.
Well, I don't think there's been a true, like, project manager with all of this either, because I think Andy might have been doing it, and then when he left, it kind of got, I think Alan kind of helped take it over to keep things, and so I've gotten invoices from both Alan and Al Senior on these types of projects that this needs to be paid, and then I tracked down the minutes of when it was approved, but I don't know what's still left hanging out there, because some of this stuff has been approved back in 22, and we haven't paid for it yet, because they might have decided not to do it, or we're going another route. And so at first when Ashley had said this, I was like, oh, is this related to what they approved last year? Now we're finally, but it's something different.
I don't think it is, Brian, I don't, and I have not seen, you know, the appropriate two quotes for something this size. I don't remember the committee making a motion to go with a certain vendor.
I haven't seen a quote at all.
Yeah, and I don't
It's all
think
been verbal.
yeah, I don't think anything was passed out at that meeting, so when I was communicating with Jamie, it's hard to tell her what's going on, cause we're just kinda taking.
You haven't even seen the quotes for the system? Then how can we pay our share?
I'm a little bit confused too, because this boiler that we approved, or that joint management approved, was in July of 23. Was for 16,000, so then we have an, AC unit for 36,000?
Times two, I think.
Oh, we want two of them?
No, I mean, that's our portion,
Oh.
Total 60.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
60.
65 or something?
I thought it was 60.
But
I thought it was 36
the total
and
boiler
24.
replacement here was 16,000, like these prices just don't.
Yeah.
And then it's like 80 some thousand for that boiler that they want for 2025. I mean, I have no idea how much a boiler costs, but if we put one in just this year for 16,000,
Okay, so can we table this till next month or something, till we get better numbers or an invoice, or figure out what the hell's going on?
Yeah, but we don't even go, and another thing I'd like to know is, do we have to see the bids
What's your guess?
well,
So who put it,
before this
who
is
had
done?
Put on the agenda.
It was referred from joint management.
because if it's
Are you
already in the budget for this year, it really wouldn't have to come here, but I'm just not entirely sure exactly what it was that was budgeted for.
So who presented this at joint management?
It was either Marty or Al Senior.
Can we just send them a clarifying email, figured out, table it to next month or something?
Another thing I think we need to know, are all the invoices into us from this library up to such and such a date?
Well, when we,
Because she's not sure if she's got everything, and I think we need to have it in writing, that everything up to such and such a date has been presented to us, so that we don't get one after we get going along here and go, oh, well, he didn't bill us for this over here yet, and it's 42,000.
maybe for the, when we clarify this, we could ask that question as well,
I would,
where we at with the bills for the total project.
because you know, you think about it,
What we
there's,
got left.
seems like about every time we brought this up in discussion, we really don't know where we're at.
We'd ask Randy, remember asking Randy about that?
Kind of shooting off the hip
Yeah.
here.
He didn't know what was going on out there.
Well,
Nice.
and like even Christina said, she like was coming to the joint management meetings to find out what was going on with these projects, because she's out there and she doesn't even know. Like, that's gotta be frustrating for them too.
I think Brian will get that figured out for us before next time, right?
Mr. Colombo,
the resolution for designating of continuing appropriations for timber sale expense account.
Jared's on vacation, so Dane is here.
I figured Dane was here for a reason.
How's it going?
Good. Living the dream back there?
Oh yeah.
What do you got for us?
So, basically, historically, we used to have the DNR offers a variable acre share loan. You get 50 cents an acre loan for the beginning of the year, and it automatically gets paid back with your stumpage revenue. And then it's a carry forward account. So this resolution is to make an account, basically making our timber sale expense account a carry forward, just due to the fact that a lot of times our timber sale expenses is highly variable. So some years we use the budgeted amount, some years we don't. Some years we need to go over, if that makes sense.
So instead of taking a loan every year and putting it into the account and having it carry forward, we decided we were gonna budget for taking a loan, which you then tied your hands to, you could only use it for this much, which we were paying back the next day, pretty much anyways.
Isn't that the same account we just got rid of?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we're kinda going backwards here. I mean,
We just got rid of that.
because I looked at the last 10 years of that account, and never once in the last 10 years have we spent more than this 44,521.79 in any given year. So I guess I don't understand the need for continuing appropriations to carry that forward if we've never spent that much. You know, it would carry forward up to 44,521.79 each year, but we've never spent that much alone in any one given year. The reason we got rid of it was because we were, we were putting restrictions on our own money. Like what Dane said, it was a loan basically for our own money. We were taking this loan out in December, January. They were giving us 44,521.79, and then we set aside 20% of our timber sale collections into an account, and usually by February, we already have that full amount already set aside, but then that money could only be spent for timber sale expenses, so like buying paint, timber mats, beaver control, that kind of thing. So then, 1 year we'd maybe spend 30,000, and the next year we'd spend the full 45,000, but whatever was unspent kept building up in that balance, so pretty soon we had like $100,000 fund balance, plus we were continuing to put this 44,000, budget that every year, and we were putting, like I said, we were putting restrictions on, but then we were also subject to potential additional audit procedures and liability because we had to be audited to make sure that we were spending those funds for their designated purpose, even though it was our money. So then we stopped taking that loan and just said, we're going to budget for this within timber sale expense. So then when we did the 2024 budget, there was, was it 2023 and 2024? So 2023, we still budgeted for the full 44,000 within the state aid forestry budget because there was like close to $100,000 left to spend.
Fund balance.
To spend on that fund balance. And then when we budgeted for 2024, it was part of it was budgeted in the state aid forestry line, part of it was budgeted in the forestry budget timber sale expense because we were planning on spending out that fund balance. So I think, if we designate this continuing appropriations fund balance, we're tying our hands with our own money. We're kind of promoting overspending and over budgeting because we've never spent. Look, I could go back further than 10 years, but the highest year was in 2023 when we spent $42,176.32 for timber sale expenses. Otherwise, it's been less than that.
So what he was actually proposing was a non-lapsing account, which doesn't make sense.
And I think what they're looking for is commitment that budget is not going to get cut, right? That you guys, that we're not gonna look at it and be like, oh, you only spent $20,000 in 2024, so we're only gonna give you $20,000 for 2025, but really you might be needing more than that in 2025.
Right.
And that's exactly what he's asking,
And-
because it happens too often, somebody sees somebody's got a nickel more in another account, well, now we're gonna take that away, because we can spend that, and now we're only gonna give you this, so. That happens too often.
And there's gonna be additional expenses coming up in the future here with, one reason is the tightness with BNP is for water quality that they're tightening down on, increased amount of permits we gotta do, work we gotta do on trails for that sort of stuff, and then also, regenerating oak coming up here, if we gotta do prescribed burns and things like that. That could potentially be paid for over there, that's gonna be a little bit more expensive, so then, it'd be increased costs in certain years.
But I think you should budget for what you need, because even if you are using the continuing appropriations, you still have to budget for those expenses so that we don't go over budget, and then it would just, be coming out of that continuing appropriations, but I mean, having the continuing appropriations, you could make that argument like, oh, well, I could use continuing appropriations for my office supplies because, we only have $4,000 or $1,000 every year for 3 of us, and so if we could set that additional money aside and have continuing appropriations, then we could buy a new computer one year with that extra money, but instead it maybe makes more sense to just budget for that computer in the year that you need it, or try to.
Yeah, if I remember right, that's why we took it out of there, cause it was just sitting there, wasn't getting used, and it was kinda like having a slush fund, in a sense. As long as you paid it back when you sold stumpage.
We're basically borrowing our own money too.
Right.
Yeah, that
Then
more.
you never could move it to the general fund, even if it built up a fund balance, you'd never move it there because it's all borrowed for a specific.
But then if it's not in the budget, you have a bad year and you just go and use that 45,000 for whatever you want, and let's just say stumpage is really crappy in one year, we're gonna have to pull it out of somewhere else to pay it back. I don't know, I remember when we discussed it before, I thought it was kinda redundant to have it, not in favor of putting it back, I guess.
Anybody got any ideas what they wanna do?
You know which, budget that's in, top of your head?
So, yeah, so where it's budgeted this year is in the, well, you're not gonna, what's the account number, hold on, let me just get that. So it's the 611 tab is where that fund balance is, so there was 27,184.31 remaining at the end of 2023. So our 2024 budget was budgeting to use that. And then the remainder, the difference between that 44,000 is in the 610 budget, and there's a line called, timber sale expense, I believe. Yeah, it's, the, object code is 217, so.
610.
Yep, so it's kinda, it was between 2 budgets for 2024, because you were budgeting to utilize the rest of that fund balance that was on that 611 tab. And then the remainder is, if you scroll up.
Do you think in 2025 you would need more than 44,521 for that?
It's kinda hard to say. Probably not. If we don't have like it says in the resolution, like unforeseen costs with storm damage or anything like that, that's where your added expenses come in. Or if you end up having, our timber sale contracts are for 4 years, so they have 4 years to cut them, so you don't know when they're exactly gonna move in and when expenses come up for that sort of stuff, so, culverts, other sorts of stream crossings that come up, that costs more and more money every year. That's kind of the point of this, I believe. It's kind of unforeseen costs like that. If that makes sense. Or if you get a year where we get a big windstorm that comes through or something, adds in a lot of cost too.
If we cut budgets this year, then every department's gonna come in with a resolution wanting to get a loan. Whatever's out there.
Well, I don't think they're asking to bring back the loan.
No.
Well,
So
that's what it is.
The loan carried forward every year, so since
Right.
we have a budget line for it now, it was the same thing. The budget.
I thought we took that right out.
You're saying in 10 years we haven't exceeded.
Right, yeah, I think there's 10 years
What
worth
was
of.
that, you said?
The highest was in 2023 when we spent 41,176.32. But the average of that 10 years was, $31,250.61. Annually.
I think it just makes sense to leave it as a budget item. If not, you're gonna anticipate what's coming up for the coming year when it comes to the budget time anyway. You can put that request in there and justify it. Just.
That's your motion, right?
Pardon?
That's your motion.
Do I need a motion?
I don't think you need a motion.
You need a motion on this?
I don't think we need a motion, but this one just lies on the
Just leave well enough alone?
Pardon?
Just leave well enough alone.
I think. I mean, is that,
Right,
would
it
it
would
be cleaner to?
Yeah, it would be prudent to ask for a motion to approve the resolution and forward to county board.
If you're in favor of.
If
the
you're in
resolution,
favor of the
Doing it,
resolution.
Exactly, so that's the motion you would call for, and if there is no such motion, then we move on.
Then it dies.
Oh, okay, got it. So you need to call for a motion and then when nobody
Okay,
says.
motion to push this resolution forward to the county board as presented. And there's no motion, so it needs a die. So please roll up all. Yeah, that's the first time I had to do that. Alright, moving on to number 3, approval to increase to the fiscal impact change to compensation structure for seasonal employees and interns.
I think the HR manager needed to step out to take a phone call, would you mind, maybe going to something else?
What?
Like maybe number 5? No, she needs to be here for number 5.
Yeah, we kind of touched on this one already.
Okay, number 5, approved Pacific Plus subscription service contract.
So the total would be $22.55 per year. We already paid them $1,977.16, but they give us credit for. Like I said, our next invoice would be $907, instead we paid $277.84. This is, this is our, takes care of our ordinances.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right. I don't know that one.
Is this a new company?
Oh, there you go, you gotta be on the back.
I think I emailed you about that before or something too.
We kind of talked about that, but that's what was due.
You're staying with the same company?
And now,
You want me to look
Hopefully
at
they're gonna-
someplace else?
now you're gonna get a
Hopefully
very.
they're gonna do a better job than that.
That's what I'm trying to do, is to have them do it monthly instead of doing it, like a quarterly type thing.
Otherwise,
I know.
otherwise, when people look, they could be looking at stuff that's 2 months out of date.
And I told them that, I said, you're not updating, you haven't updated for the last, I mean, it was quite a while. So we're getting left behind, why is that? And I do have a lot of emails, if anybody's interested in that, but I just,
What did they say, why not keeping up?
Well, because of the way we're structured for the contract. You know, we're structured to pay so much per resolution, and this would
Eliminate that.
eliminate that, and we would, you know, they would be working on this all the time.
So are we basically reading the contract or signing the contract, is what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Just for 1 year, we're not stuck into anything.
Your cost, 907.
2250.
2255, yep.
55.
What are we paying right now for the quarterly,
You mean for the year?
or for the year with quarterly update?
3,000,
Three?
3,500, oh yeah.
So we get better service for less. Okay.
Don't know about better service, you get it for less.
And I could-
Propose better service for less.
Yeah, so they would work on it all the time instead of just quarterly, you know what I mean? We would,
They're the only outfit out there that does this.
I have not looked, but I can. Would you like me to? Then I have to pay the 907, I paid 19.
I don't know, this seems similar to when I was on the school board, Neola did that kind of thing.
But for this first year, I think it's kind of a no-brainer because
We're in this
Yeah.
fight.
because they're giving us credit for what we
And
already paid.
let me look forward to see what I can.
I think for this year, it makes sense.
This one we probably need 2255,
So we'd only owe
but we only say
$277.84 right now. So if we don't do this, I owe them $907.
I'll make the motion.
motion by Mr. Schutz to approve the CD contract at what, $207 you said, Connie?
For 255.
Or 255, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Whitewig, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
So just for clarification, that begins now and will be good for a year, so this time in 2025.
I can work on, I can work on something different,
Yeah, that gives you a lot of time to work.
to research it and see what everybody else is using.
And this might be the best.
Number 6, review the recent bond rating report from the S&P.
Okay, so there were just a couple of things that I wanted to draw your attention to. So this was the 6th attachment that Jamie sent in her initial email, if you all want to pull that up quick. Earlier this year, Jamie and I achieved increasing the county's credit rating. So we were at an A+, and we increased to a AA-. That's probably where we can top out based off of our county size. Okay, so that's really great, and we did it right before we were anticipating a large borrowing, so we were really in the best spot to look at a large capital improvement plan. So we have been going through the process of meeting with lots of people about issuing our debt, the $6 million that you guys approved. Jamie and I had a really in-depth ratings call last week. So they sent this report, and there's just a few things I wanted to pull out of it for you guys, and this is very timely as we're going through budget season. So on page 3, it just kind of goes over what the rating reflects for, thanks Jamie. Yeah, right there, perfect, thanks. So they took into account our mainly stable tax base. Jamie and I were very upfront that we are losing Jeld-Wen. They weren't as concerned with that because we will be probably bringing in more jobs with what the city said about Henry coming in.
And also Jeld-Wen is not one of our top 10 taxpayers.
Yep, which was surprising, yeah.
It's because, the tax rates are lower in Hawkins than they are in other municipalities, so like, even though their like assessed value is higher than some of our other top 10 taxpayers, the amount of tax that they pay is less.
In aggregate, not necessarily in the county portion of the levy, but
Right,
I mean,
right.
school district wise is less, yes, yeah.
So again, we were very upfront about the whole picture of what the county is facing with, I know a lot of board members were concerned about losing children as a taxpayer, fully upfront about that. Also the history of our positive operating results, and our healthy general fund balance, adequate management coming from our finance department, and then our very strong debt. So we don't have a lot in comparison to what we are able to borrow with our debt profile. So we are in a very good position to take on more debt at this time. Now, the kind of concerning thing is if you scroll down to the outlook. So the downside scenario, unfortunately, is what we are facing as we head into 2025. So it says we can lower the rating if operating performance were to weaken, resulting in materially lower reserves. So Jamie, as our finance director, is very concerned, as she should be, about what we are looking at needing to cut from our budget, and then also what we are looking at taking from our general fund, which is why we need to have very serious discussions as we move forward. We worked very hard, our administration, past boards, at increasing our credit score to basically as high as it can be. We put ourselves in a wonderful position to borrow for a large capital project, and the board decided to maybe put that on pause, but we are seeing the results of that, and not all of it. HHS has nothing to do with not building a jail, but when we get the sheriff's department in here next week, you will see the large increase in operating expenses to that budget. And here, the S&P is telling us, if you guys aren't maintaining good operations as you have been in the past, and you start ripping money out of your general fund, depleting your reserves, that's cause for concern when they look at us for borrowing. So I don't want to put a downer on the meeting, but we have to be upfront with you about the seriousness of what we are doing here as we move into the next couple of budget cycles.
Can we go back to number 3? Right across the line.
Yeah.
Further increase for fiscal impact to change the compensation structure for seasonal employees and interns.
Yeah, so you guys have heard this once already, but I think there was a little bit of miscommunication on what the financial impact would be after talking to some of the department heads, and then what the purpose of was it coming out of personnel was. So our seasonal interns, we had asked to increase them to $15 an hour from $12.50, currently going to $15, and then maxing out at $20. I think when the financial impact was originally discussed with you guys, it would be at placing most of those new interns at $15, or not new interns, all interns at $15, even if they were coming back to us for second, third year, as long as that $15, placing them at that still gave them an increase. And when we first talked about increasing this and was talking to the department heads and in personnel, the goal was for it to be, if you had a returning intern, like a second year returning intern, they'd be at $16 an hour. If they were at a third year, coming back next year for their third year, it'd be at $17. So with that did change the financial impact a little bit, which is why coming back here to talk about that. So I think when we first did it, the financial impact was about $10,100 total for all departments, and that would be putting most people, no matter, like I said, no matter if they were returning second, third year, putting them mostly at $15. A few of them a little higher just because their current rates were already at 15. So that would be at 10,000. But if we were to look at their total years of service for next year and placing them where they would be with their total years of service, that financial impact would be $18,579.95 for 2025. And that would be if we had the interns return that they're planning on returning.
So that was a cap at 18 an hour?
No, at 20, but I took out some of them that we know are not returning. And put them at the 15 wage.
So
the impact almost doubled.
So 10,100 to 18,579. It was like a 2,000 increase to extension, 5,500 to maintenance. Forestry had some seasoned interns, so like 7,500 to them. And then if the econ development one came back, it'd be about 3,800.
How many employees do you have when you're setting that at a minimum of 15? How many employees do we currently have that are under that are, well, I can think of the library people are making what, $13 or $14? What, and like the part-time people at animal shelter, they're a 13 something. How many other employees that type that are part-time or whatever, you know, that they're not seasonal or interns, but how many, do you have an idea of how many other?
Well, the library people aren't paid by,
They're paid by the city.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that would be, we have a couple grades that are below that, like I think 4 grade levels there.
It's mostly the senior services workers.
Yep.
Our trailer caretaker.
Below 20, yeah, but not 15.
Oh, right, yeah.
Just wondering, I mean, thinking overall. Okay.
So what has been approved is starting them at 15.50 or 16 is what it looks like some of your, I don't know how some of those were figured out. But some of these are at 16. When the first financial impacts was.
Yeah, because I was.
Cause if they were at 15 this year, next year they would get 16.
Yeah, and I was thinking it would be like when we implemented the wage study where they'd be like placed on the step that provides, you know, at least that $1 an hour increase with 15 being the starting, but I wasn't understanding what.
What we discussed at personnel, yeah, was to be, where interns would be, or the seasonal help, you kind of retro back their years.
So you could have somebody going from 14, because it was capped out at 15, so you would have somebody going from 15 to 20. Or, like, say 1450 would be at 18, 19.
Well, 14.50 would be a third year, so it'd be 17. Or maybe you're
Next
charging
year,
for 18,
yeah.
yeah.
Personnel approved it with the 15 plus the steps.
They didn't
We
have
weren't stepping them, the point when we presented it to personnel was, you look at their total years of service, so if somebody's starting next year, or if somebody's starting next year and they have benefits at all, it'd be $15 an
But
hour.
if somebody
If
started,
somebody
they
came as a
would-
third year next year, it would be 17 an hour.
So every year they.
Because the way it was originally written was that start at 15 for each additional year of service they have, they'd be placed at $1 higher. Where I think there was some miscommunication on, do we look back at the years of service, or is it like, and it's not, the resolution was not written as of like, hey, as of this date, we're only gonna start counting your years of service as of 2025. Your total years of service.
And what was the years max at again?
It was maxed at 20, which we could change that. That really won't change the financial impact for this year, because we really don't have that many
No, but
interns.
over how many years could you hit the max? So it's like
6, it'd be 15,
5,
16,
6.
17, 18, 19, 20, a 6 year. Somebody coming back for their 6th year would get $20 an hour.
We have that many that are coming back 6 years, 7 years later.
7 years, $20 an hour, 8 years, $20 an hour.
Forestry, some of the forestry kids are, not kids.
Or do we have people, is that what you
younger
said?
people are tough.
Oh, really?
They like coming back to work for Mike, yeah.
We would have one next year, if he comes back, he'd be in his 6th year.
But it's capped at 20, that's still an improvement on what it's been. 'Cause they're not on the wage scale.
And so I think where I was coming with when we wrote this too, so for instance, that person, he's at 15 right now, right, he's capped. So next year, if we were to leave it the same, he would only get 60 next year and coming back for his 6th year, when everybody else would be making like 15 right under him, he's been there for 6 years, so literally needs no training, just off
I
you
guess
go.
one thing I have to think about this more, there's a vault of both, but if you think about it and look back, I think we ended up, EMTs at what, 19 something? We're gonna pay interns, cause they come back their 6th year. Money.
Well,
Well, the
But
EMTs
full-time
would start
EMTs
that, their first year they would start,
And they
If
if we increase the wage, and that would be their first year.
I think though, even if you cap it at 18, start at 15, and just do a 4-year increase, I don't know how much that's gonna affect the budget.
I mean, like, okay, so that $1 increase is like,
It keeps him
if they're working 600 hours over the summer, they're talking like $661. You know, cause they don't have much for benefits.
If you pay somebody $15 an hour and it's their first year on the job, or you're paying somebody 18, your first 100 hours is not as valuable because you're training people in.
Right.
So I mean, it is advantageous to incentivize people to come back because of how much more efficient you are once you know the job.
Good point.
Or how the county works, everything, you know, even if you don't know that specific job, you get the general idea of how things go.
I don't think you're gonna have that many that honestly hit the 20 anyhow, they're gonna move on to other jobs or this or that, I mean, it'll happen some, but I think it'll be minimal.
It's probably pretty rare, I think with forestry, if, you know, if somebody's in college for that 5-year mark, they're coming back. Especially maybe if they started in high school, that would be it, but probably once you graduate from college, you're not coming back.
I don't think there's gonna be many.
Most of them for next year would be in the $16 range. 117, 118.
Well, we need to raise that
120.
anyhow, cause we weren't filling all the positions, so.
So is that the consensus, just leave it the way it is?
No, we need a
You need the
motion.
new fiscal impact.
Yeah, to increase the fiscal impact to 18,579, or to approve that.
I'll make a motion to increase the fiscal impact of the change to compensation structure for seasonal employees and interns.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Ledwig, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Undershoots, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Number 4, approve interim building commissioner compensation for 13-24 from each of them.
So we made Justin the interim highway commissioner, Justin Livingston, effective on, August 13th. So our previous interim highway commissioner had resigned effective August 8th. So we just need to approve that retroactive compensation for him. So we would do it the same that we did it with the last interim, which would be an hourly rate of $38.79 for those additional responsibilities and duties. And that is the step 1 of the highway commissioner scale, and we'd keep them hourly. So that's a rate difference, of $9.89 per hour. So financial impacts there, technically really wouldn't be a financial impact because, we have the operations manager and the commissioner position open, so there won't be any additional financial impact. It's hard to calculate what the financial impact would be, because we don't know the overtime and all of that, so that's why I just gave you guys the rate difference and then the fact that we have the 2 open positions right now, and one of them we're not filling with any interim.
What again, 32?
It'd be $38.79, and the rate difference would be $9.89. He's currently at 29. 38.79 will be the wage.
So we don't have a operations manager now.
No, and we don't have anybody interim, so the interim commissioner is kinda doing 3 jobs, their job, the ops manager, and then his own job.
We have candidates for the operations.
It closes tonight.
So I'll make the motion to, approve the retroactive compensation back to 8/13.
And then until the commissioner position is filled. Also.
Motion by Mr. Undershoot, second by Mr. Whiteway, all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay, backside, approval of the invoices. Everybody had a chance to look at the invoices?
I got a question and one down here, they don't have, doesn't have an invoice number. From Napai, for a tailgate from Napai Auto Club and APAPID.
Well, yeah, so Forestry borrowed a truck from maintenance and damage to the tailgate on that truck, so then we had to order a new 2001-7902.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
For a 2014 truck.
You shed me.
This is the truck that's got the dump box on it. It really doesn't have that many miles on it because.
Oh, so this is for that white one out there with
Yes.
the dump box?
Yes.
So they damaged the, what tailgate? Tailgate on the dump box?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody help me do that. I don't forget.
I think it came down and hit the ditch or something.
Any other questions on the invoices? The motion to approve the invoices.
I move to approve the invoices.
Second.
First by Mr. Ryan, second by Jim, to approve the invoices, all in favor say aye.
Alright.
All the same sign. Those are paid.
I have some in the folder here too, sorry. There's not very many, but.
Out of county travel. County clerk.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. WCA,
Yep.
conference is September 22nd to the 24th, 3/9/20. And I also have, their district meeting in Hayward on 8/9 for 7981. And I also have county board for WCA annual conference, September 22nd through 24th, $5,355. That's just an estimate for you guys, I don't have a clue.
County's conference.
So it's for county board.
First year, you're free.
I did not, I don't have enough vacation time to be going to everything.
Starts on Sunday.
That's in September, right? Yeah.
I've been here,
I got it.
Brian, this will be the first time I'm going to that in here 3 years.
There you go.
I really can't afford the time off.
It would be easier if I just retired.
It's good. It's good.
Any questions about the out-of-county travel? If not, motion to approve it. Motion by Mr. Undershoots, favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. County travels approved.
Three.
Didn't have any other requests, right?
No.
Reports, treasurer, we already did. Lucky number 10. Administrative coordinator.
Okay, so fiscal impacts from personnel committee, HR manager Curtis already went over. From joint management of note, if you guys recall, the Jazz and Dowdy Road buildings have been sitting vacant, one for over a year now. The joint management committee did approve advertising, for $2.50 a square foot, on a limited term basis, because the city is hoping to move Indec into those, buildings, because Henry is buying the Indec building. So hoping to get a little bit of revenue off of those buildings while we can. Ad hoc construction committee has reconvened, and they met 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, and they have directed Samuels and Venture to come up with a $25 million option, and to also provide some feedback on whether or not the highway shop can actually make it 8 to 10 years, if we were to proceed with going to jail. And they will be coming back September 18th, I believe. Hospital and nursing home site updates. You guys all got the proposal I sent out. Property reviewed it, and they would like to hold the proposal, not decline it, not accept it, but approach the county board tonight about amending the RFP language. So originally the RFP, you had to bid on those 5 southern parcels. You had to give an amount for that, and then you could add a la carte those north parcels. And the thought behind the property committee was that if we made the RFP split the parcels off, so you could bid on all or just one, that maybe we would get some more responses back to that. So more to come at county board tonight. And then on the vacant lot next to Oakleaf, those bids are due back at the end of August. And Oakleaf is very current. Joint management, it's the same tenants who always run 30 to 60 days in arrears. They always catch up, so I don't push it too hard, but otherwise all of our receivables are looking good with our tenants.
Okay, number 11, clerk's report.
Okay. Open record software, we have 37 closed, we have 13 open. And that has started since July, July 1st. So, we have 45 marriage license, we're done with the August election, now we're entering everything into the state system. And that is going pretty good.
Okay, on my report, we had Tanya Sweeney start as our new assistant finance director last week. So we're working on, getting her onboarded. I mean, it's not taking a whole lot since she was with the county before. She's still transitioning, out of her other roles. I'm currently working on reviewing the draft of the 2023 financial statements. Wondering if you guys want the auditors to come present to the finance committee and or the board, or if you just want, you know, once they, issue the financial statements, if you just want to look at them and ask questions as needed. And some of the 2025 insurance renewal questionnaires are coming in, so I'm responding to those and trying to get those back to the insurance company as soon as possible as well.
Health insurance?
No, property, liability, workers' comp, other storage tank, time policy, elected officials, there's a lot of them. So, but do you guys want the auditors to come present the 2023 financials, or do you just want, I mean, you'll get the executive audit summary, which highlights the 2023 operating results. I think you guys are pretty well aware that, you know, we had very good operating results for 2023. But. Okay.
Is that it, Jamie?
Yep.
Review and then
Again on the 29th, right?
Yes, meeting next week on Thursday. Yes, 8 AM. And then look at the September
Almost the third Thursday, right? Be the 19th.
for next month. Yes,
September.
Yeah.
for our regular meeting. Yeah.
I got down the 19th.
19th.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
September 19th.
At 3?
We might wanna look at that time after next week's meeting, just in case, I mean, we typically need more budget meetings than 2. Especially with, you know, we're really gonna have to revisit a lot of these budgets, so
So why don't we just,
Maybe earlier.
should we plan for 8 AM on?
you wanna, like to work a little.
Yeah, I just don't know if we're gonna wanna call departments back.
What's the best you can get away with, Brian, if you had to do a half a day or something?
Well, like today, I went in at 6 and worked till 10.
Would you wanna do that, start at 10 or noon or?
If you're willing to accommodate me for that,
Yeah, whatever you want, whatever you're thinking.
I can make that, that's easier for me to make.
How about you, Phil?
If we're doing 10, I'm gonna pretty much take a day anyways.
Huh?
If we're doing 10 AM, I'm pretty much taking vacation day anyways.
Okay, so 10 or
Like,
noon,
1 PM or something would be
good with you?
easier, but I don't know how many people we can get, how much.
Yeah, I just don't know, I just don't know how many departments we're gonna want to come back in,
Oh,
That's
I
it.
see what you're saying.
yeah. Cause then we have, you know, 3.5 hours,
So 10,
or even, would noon be?
somewhat
Let's
better.
start at 10. If it's good with Brian, let's just start with 10. 'Cause I'm gonna take the day anyhow. If he's gonna take the day.
Oh, we might just start at 8. Oh, wait.
We're waiting for Brian.
Well,
Why you gotta cut him off right away all the time for?
Yeah.
This is fun.
He's always taking,
The 19th of September, so we're still on for the 29th next, at 8 AM. Yes.
19. Tentatively 10. We'll
It's
plan on 10.
September 19th at 10 AM.
oh, 29th.
What?
Oh,
Oh, the 29th won't be. I got it wrote down.
Sorry, that was August 29th.
So what did we decide?
The 19th at 10 AM.
Okay,
September.
but we have animal control in here, I don't know if I'll have the blood mopped up by then.
Well, that's right, yours is at 8 or 8:30
You're gonna
that
have to
morning.
take it up to the small conference room then.
No way.
You're gonna have to have close quarters.
We'll get through it by then, there's gonna be a lot of things change, so. So 10 o'clock on the 19th September.
Alright, there's nothing else on the agenda here. Motion to adjourn would be, good.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Meyer. Second.
Yep.
Second by Mr. Beatty.
There you go.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, we're adjourned.
Somebody changed the clocks to the right time.
Oh, yes. This was our pack,